Chapter 1. The Day My Niece Finally Spoke. Before I tell you my name, you need to understand this. My 9-year-old niece had not spoken a single word in 5 years, not to teachers, not to doctors, not even to me, until the night she grabbed my arm, looked me straight in the eyes and said, "Do not drink that. My mom put something in it so you won't be able to say no." I am Ava, and what happened next was not just a family drama. It was a quiet revenge that started with a silent child, a cup of tea, and a plan that was supposed to erase me without anyone noticing. My sister called me on a Tuesday afternoon while I was still at my desk, the kind of day where the air in the office felt too dry and the fluorescent lights made everyone look a little tired. I had been reviewing a stack of vendor compliance notes, the boring kind of work that keeps other people's mistakes from becoming disasters, when her name flashed across my phone. I almost let it go to voicemail, not because I did not love her, but because with my sister, a simple call could turn into an hour of subtle pressure, little sighs, and the kind of family guilt that never shows up on paper. I answered anyway. "Renee?" I said. Her breath came through the speaker a little too fast, like she had been walking. She always sounded busy, even when she was standing still. "Ava, I need a favor," she said, "and it's last minute, but I do not have anyone else." My name is Ava Mercer. I am 40. I work in compliance for a regional financial services firm downtown. It's not a glamorous job, but it fits the way my brain works. I notice patterns. I read fine print. I listen for what people do not say. I've learned the hard way that the biggest problems usually wear a calm face. Renee is 44, my older sister by 4 years. She's the director of operations at our father's old manufacturing company, now owned by a cousin who loves to call it a family business, as if the word family makes everything clean. Renee runs things the way she runs her life, with tight control and polished confidence. "What kind of favor?" I asked. Renee rushed in before I could answer. "Bryce and I have to go to Kansas City," she said. "It's work. It's important. I wouldn't ask if it wasn't." Bryce is her husband, a real estate consultant who is always talking about deals that are almost done. He has been almost successful for as long as I've known him. "Kansas City," I repeated. "That's not exactly a quick trip." Renee made a soft sound, like she was smiling without being happy. "It's complicated, Ava. Please. She'll be fine with you. She likes you. And honestly, it will be good for her to be out of her routine." Routine. That word always came up around Sadie. Sadie was diagnosed with selective mutism when she was 4. That's what the pediatrician wrote down after a year of Sadie not speaking at school and barely whispering at home. Renee repeated the diagnosis like it was a shield. She used it to shut down questions. She used it to explain away anything that didn't fit the picture of her perfect household. It's not like Sadie never made noise. She laughed sometimes, a sound like a hiccup she tried to swallow. She hummed to herself in the back seat of a car. But words never came, not for teachers, not for neighbors, not for anyone outside Renee. Even with me, Sadie communicated in nods and little finger taps, eyes wide and watchful. I checked my calendar. Friday was supposed to be quiet. A couple of reports due, nothing I couldn't finish early. "Fine," I said. "I can do Friday through Tuesday." Relief spilled out of Renee in a way that felt rehearsed. "Thank you. Thank you. I'll text you the schedule. Snacks she likes are in the pantry. Her therapist has a worksheet on the counter. Just keep it simple. Keep things calm." "Keep things calm," I repeated, because that was what I always did. Renee softened her voice the way she used to when we were kids, and she wanted me to do something without arguing. "You're the only one I trust with her, Ava." That should have felt like a compliment. Instead, it landed in my stomach like a small stone. On Friday evening, I drove to their house in Cedar Glen, a planned subdivision outside Des Moines, where every lawn was trimmed to the same height and every porch light looked identical. Renee met me at the door with a suitcase all ready by her feet. She was dressed like she had been for work. Tailored pants, blouse tucked in, hair pulled back so tight her face looked smoother than it should. Sadie stood behind her, half hidden, holding a small stuffed rabbit by one ear. Renee kissed my cheek, quick and light. "You're a lifesaver," she said. Bryce appeared in the hallway with his phone pressed to his ear. He gave me a distracted wave, eyes darting like he was following a conversation that mattered more than the room. "Gotta run," he said, not to me, to whoever was on the phone. Renee crouched in front of Sadie and smoothed her hair. "Be good, baby. Listen to Aunt Ava. No surprises." Sadie nodded once. Her eyes flicked to me, then away. Renee stood and lowered her voice. "Her tea is on the counter. She's been sleeping better with it. I already made a jar. Just heat it up at night." "Tea," I said. "Okay." Renee smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. "Call me if you need anything," she said, "and don't let her stay up late." Then she was gone, heels clicking down the walkway, Bryce behind her, the front door closing with a soft, final sound. The house felt too quiet for how neatly it was arranged. Everything had a place, even the air. Sadie stood by the stairs, rabbit dangling, her bare toes curled against the hardwood. I set my bag down and crouched to her level. "Hey, kiddo," I said. "It's just us. We're going to be okay." Sadie looked at my mouth while I was speaking, like she was studying the shape of each word. Then she lifted her hand and tapped 2 fingers against her chest, a gesture I'd seen before. It meant, "I'm here." It also meant, "Don't ask me to say anything." I nodded, respecting her space the way I always had. We ate a simple dinner, pasta from a box, because I wasn't trying to impress anyone. Sadie picked at hers, then watched me wash dishes with a focus that made me feel like I was being evaluated. When I offered her a cookie, she shook her head. At 9, she carried herself like someone older, someone who had learned that attention could be dangerous. Around 9, I remembered the jar Renee mentioned. It sat on the counter next to a neat row of vitamins and a laminated schedule for Sadie's week. The jar was filled with dark amber liquid. A handwritten label in Renee's tidy print read "Evening Blend." I turned the jar, sniffed the lid. It smelled like chamomile, maybe valerian, something earthy under the sweetness. I poured a small amount in a sandpan and warmed it. The kitchen light reflected off the surface like thin oil. I told myself I was being paranoid. Tea was tea. Still, as I lifted the mug, my instincts tugged, the same tiny tug I got when a document was missing a page or a number didn't line up. It wasn't fear, it was awareness. Sadie had been sitting at the table, coloring silently. When she saw the mug in my hand, her whole body went still. The crayon froze above the paper. Her eyes widened, fixed on the steam rising from the cup. I paused. "You want some?" I asked, mostly to break the stillness. Sadie did not nod. She did not shake her head. She stared at the mug like it was a live thing. I brought it closer to my lips, still telling myself I was overthinking. Sadie's chair scraped back with a sudden squeal. She stood up so fast the rabbit fell to the floor. Her hands trembled, fingers opening and closing like she was trying to grab air. And then she spoke. "Do not drink that," she said. The sound hit me like a slap, not because it was loud, but because it was real, clear, a child's voice, steady enough to carry meaning, not a whisper, not a broken syllable. My arm froze mid-lift. Sadie took a step toward me, eyes shiny, face pale. "Mom put something in it. She doesn't want you awake for what comes next." My throat tightened. The mug felt suddenly heavy, like it had weight beyond ceramic and liquid. "Sadie," I managed, my voice barely more than breath. "You can talk." She swallowed hard. Her lower lip quivered for a second. Then she forced it still, like she had practiced holding everything inside. "I've always been able to," she said. I set the mug down slowly. The tea sloshed against the side, a small sound that seemed too loud in the quiet kitchen. My heart pounded with a slow, thick rhythm, the kind that made the world sharpen at the edges. I crouched in front of her. "Why?" I said, keeping my voice calm on purpose. "Because," she said, "if I talked, you wouldn't be here anymore," she whispered. I stared at her, my mind trying to fit that sentence into something reasonable, something that could exist in the world I thought I lived in. Outside, a sprinkler clicked on in a neighbor's yard. Somewhere down the street, a dog barked twice, then stopped. Sadie's small hand lifted and pointed at the mug. She said it's going to be easier, Sadie said. Easier for the papers, easier for everyone. My stomach dropped, cold spreading through me. In compliance, I had seen people do terrible things for money, for power, for ego, but this was not a faceless client. This was my sister. I looked at the tea again. The steam had thinned, curling weakly into the air. Sadie picked up her rabbit from the floor and hugged it to her chest, like it was the only safe thing in the room. I wanted to call Renee right then. I wanted to demand an explanation. I wanted to believe there was some misunderstanding, some harmless reason that would make Sadie's fear dissolve. But Sadie was standing in front of me, a child who had been silent for years, using her voice like a weapon she had kept hidden until the moment she thought it mattered most. I reached for her gently, and she didn't pull away. "Okay," I said quietly. "Okay, you did the right thing." Sadie's shoulders sagged, a tiny collapse, like she had been holding her breath since the door shut. I lifted the mug and carried it to the sink without drinking. I did not pour it out, not yet. Instead, I set it carefully on the counter again, as if it were evidence. Sadie watched every move I made. My mind ran through possibilities in quick, orderly lines, the way it always did when something went wrong. What does she mean by papers? What does she mean by easier? Why would Renee need me, not awake? I turned back to Sadie. "Tell me what you heard," I said. Sadie opened her mouth, then hesitated, eyes darting again toward the front door, toward the quiet house, as if even now the walls could report back to her mother. And in that hesitation, in the way her voice had cracked on the word papers, I felt the shape of something larger pressing in, something that had been moving around me for a long time while I assumed the world was normal. Sadie's fingers tightened on the rabbit. "I can tell you," she said, so small I almost did not hear it, "but only if you promise you will not let her take me away." Chapter 2. 5 years of silence wasn't fear. It was protection. My chest tightened, and I nodded even though my promise felt too big for the size of the room. "I promise," I said. "I will not let her take you away." Sadie searched my face like she had learned to read danger in small shifts. When she finally seemed satisfied, she slid back into her chair, but she did not pick up her crayon again. Her hands stayed wrapped around the stuffed rabbit, knuckles pale. I pulled my phone from my pocket and set it face down on the table. "No calls," I said. "No texting. Not until you tell me what you need to tell me." She stared at the phone, then at the hallway again, like sound itself could betray her. Her voice came out in pieces, not a story, more like scattered pictures she had carried alone for years. "It started when I was little," she said. "Not little like now, little like when I still talked all the time." I tried to keep my breathing slow. My mind wanted details, dates, names, but she was 9, and fear does not come in neat paragraphs. "You talked," I said gently. "At home?" She nodded once. "I talked to Dad," she said. "I talked to Mom, too. I sang songs. I told you about my rabbit that time, remember?" My throat tightened. I did remember. A sunny afternoon when she was 4, tugging my hand toward the backyard, babbling about a bird on the fence. I had filed that memory away as proof that she was not broken, just shy. At some point, I had stopped looking for more proof. Then she stopped, Sadie said, like I was not allowed. I leaned forward. "Tell me what happened," I said. She flinched at the word happened, as if it was loud. "It was nighttime," she said. "I was supposed to be asleep, but I was not. I was on the stairs, like 3 steps down. Mom and Dad were in the kitchen." I pictured the layout. The kitchen opened into the living room. The stairs faced the hallway. From 3 steps down, she would have heard everything. "They were mad," she said. "Dad sounded tired. Mom sounded like when she smiles, but it is not happy." I swallowed. "What were they talking about?" I asked. Sadie's fingers twisted the rabbit's ear. "She said you make it complicated," Sadie said. "She said it would be easier if you were not involved. She said you always need proof, you always ask questions, you always want everything in writing. She said you think you are better because you work in a bank." I almost laughed, but the sound died before it formed. I did not work in a bank. I worked in compliance. Close enough. To my sister, anything that sounded official was something to resent. "And your dad?" I asked. Sadie stared at the table. "Dad said we should not talk like that," she said. "Dad said you are family. Dad said Aunt Ava helped Grandma when she was sick." My throat tightened at the mention of our mother. She had been gone for 3 years, and grief had settled into my bones like weather. Renee had cried at the funeral. She had held my hand. She said, "We have to stick together now." At the time, I believed her. "What did your mom say?" I asked. Sadie's voice dropped. She said, "Family does not mean you get to ruin things," Sadie said. She said, "Grandma made rules, and you use the rules." She said, "One day I will understand that rules are for people who do not know how to win." I sat back slowly. My stomach felt hollow. Sadie stared at me, eyes wide, like she was waiting for me to call her a liar. "You were on the stairs," I said. "Did they see you?" She nodded. "Mom looked up," Sadie said. "She did not yell. She just looked right at me, like she always knows where I am." I knew that look. Renee had always been the kind of person who could walk into a room and make you feel like you had already done something wrong. "What did she do?" I asked. Sadie's fingers twisted the rabbit's ear. "She called me into the kitchen," Sadie said. "She told Dad to go upstairs. Dad said, 'Renee, stop.' And Mom said, 'Go.'" My pulse beat harder. "Then what?" I asked. Sadie's shoulders rose, then dropped. "She got down on her knees," Sadie said. "She held my face. She said, 'I'm her special girl.' She said, 'I can help her.' She said grown-ups have to make hard choices, and sometimes people get in the way. She said Aunt Ava loves rules, and rules can get people hurt." I felt cold creep along my arms. "Did she tell you to stop talking?" I asked. Sadie nodded. "She said, 'If I tell anyone what I heard, you will disappear,' she said. 'Not on purpose, but like an accident, like you will drive somewhere and not come back.' She said you are alone and no one would know." My mouth went dry. "And you believed her," I said. Sadie's eyes filled, but she did not let the tears fall. "I was 4, she said. She sounded like she meant it as an explanation and an apology at the same time. I reached across the table, palm up, and waited. After a long moment, she slid her hand into mine. Her skin was warm and damp. "That's when you stopped talking," I said softly. She nodded. "I stopped at school first," she said. "I tried to talk to my teacher one time. I said, 'I want to go home.' I said it quiet. Mom found out. She was there fast. She smiled. She said, 'Sadie is having a rough day.' She said, 'Don't push her.' She said, 'It's her condition.'" The word "condition" sounded wrong from a child, like she had borrowed it from an adult and carried it like something heavy. "They took you to doctors," I said. Sadie made a face, small and sharp. "Not real doctors. Doctors Mom liked. Doctors who didn't ask me too many things. Mom told them I get scared. Mom told them you can't force me." I thought of every time Renee had mentioned specialist, every time she had posted something on social media about advocating for her child, every time people had praised her for being such a devoted mother. I believed it because it was easier than suspecting anything else. "At school?" I said. "Did anyone question it?" Sadie nodded slowly. "Mrs. Carter did," she said. "Who is Mrs. Carter?" I asked. "The counselor. She had curly hair. She smelled of mints. She asked me to draw pictures. She asked me to point at feelings." I pictured a school counselor doing her job, patient and gentle. "What happened?" I asked. Sadie looked toward the hallway again, then back to me. "Mom came to school," Sadie said. "Mom talked in the office.
Mom got mad, but with a smile. Then Mrs. Carter stopped asking. Mrs. Carter stopped looking at me like she wanted to help. She looked tired. My mind filled in the rest. A parent with money and confidence could make a school back off. Not always, but often enough. Especially if she knew the right phrases, the right complaints, the right threat of calling a lawyer. Sadie's grip tightened on my hand. I didn't mean to keep quiet forever. I just needed you to be safe. The sentence hit me in the chest. It was not dramatic. It was simple. That was what made it devastating. I squeezed her hand. You did what you thought you had to do, I said. You are not in trouble. None of this is your fault. Sadie's lips trembled. But now I talked, she said. Now she will know. I glanced at my phone, still face down. Renee had not called, no texts. That quiet felt loud. Why now? I asked. Why tonight? Sadie looked at the kitchen counter, at the jar, at the neat schedule. Her voice dropped again, almost back to the old silence. Because this time it's not just words, she said. This time she made something. I glanced at the tea. My skin prickled. You mean the tea? I said. Sadie nodded. She didn't make it for me, Sadie said. She made it for you. She said you will sleep. She said you will be foggy. She said you will sign if she tells you to sign. She said you won't even remember. My stomach clenched. Sign what? I asked. Sadie's fingers twisted the rabbit's ear. Papers, Sadie said. Money papers. And papers about me. She said if you are not okay, then she can do it fast. She said she can take care of everything before you know. A low, steady pulse of anger rose in me, the kind that didn't burn hot, but cold and sharp. I had spent my whole career watching people hide behind polite language while they tried to take what wasn't theirs. I had never imagined my sister would be one of them. I forced my voice to stay calm. Do you know where the papers are? I asked. Sadie hesitated, then nodded. In the office, she said. The room with the printer, the drawer that sticks. She always locks it. She has a key on her chain. I pictured the home office at the end of the hall, the one Renee kept spotless, the one she rarely let Sadie enter. Sadie's airs searched mine again. I didn't mean to keep quiet forever, she whispered, but I heard her on the phone yesterday. She said you were coming, and it was perfect. She said everything was finally lining up. I felt the room tilt just slightly, as if the floor had shifted under my feet. I stood slowly, keeping my movements gentle so I wouldn't scare her. Okay, I said, we're going to do this carefully. We're going to keep you safe. Sadie's shoulders shook once, a tiny tremor, and she nodded. I walked to the kitchen counter and looked at the jar of tea again.
I did not touch it this time. I just looked at it, like it was a warning I almost ignored. Then I turned toward the hallway where the office door waited, and I felt something settle inside me, a familiar focus, the same focus I had when a file did not match a signature, when a pattern did not fit a story. Renee had always thought I was the sister who followed rules. She had no idea rules were not what I followed. Rules were what I used to see where people tried to break them. Chapter 3. The trust was never about money. The thought followed me down the hallway like a shadow I could not shake. I did not open the office door right away. I stood there for a moment, listening to the house settle around us. The hum of the refrigerator, the faint tick of a wall clock Renee kept perfectly synchronized. Sadie lingered a few steps behind me, close enough that I could feel her presence without turning around. I am not going in there yet, I said quietly. Not tonight. Sadie nodded. She seemed to understand that some doors mattered more because they stayed closed a little longer. We went back to the kitchen. I poured myself a glass of water and drank it slowly, grounding myself in the ordinary motion. Sadie climbed onto one of the stools and watched me the way she always did, like she was measuring whether I was still solid. When I work, I live in patterns. Numbers repeat. Behaviors repeat. People repeat themselves when they think no one is listening. What Renee had done tonight was not an accident. It fit too cleanly into a shape I recognized. I pulled my laptop from my bag and set it on the table. Sadie stiffened. "I am not emailing her," I said, reading the fear in her eyes. "I just need to look at something." She relaxed a fraction. I logged into my personal files, not work systems, just my own records. When our mother died 3 years earlier, I had scanned everything: old bank statements, trust documents, letters written in our mother's careful, slanted handwriting. Renee had teased me for it at the time. "You always need a paper trail," she had said, rolling her eyes. She was not wrong. The family trust was created in the early 2010s, after our father sold his manufacturing company and before his health began to fail. It was not a fortune, it would not make anyone rich, but it was stable, predictable, and designed to protect what our parents had built. 2 beneficiaries, 2 signatures required for major decisions. Renee had hated that part. I opened the trust summary and scrolled slowly. Contributions, distributions, notes from the trust administrator, Caleb Morris. He had been around forever, quiet, efficient, the kind of man who thought consistency was the same thing as safety. Sadie leaned closer, careful not to touch anything. "Is that the money?" she asked. "Yes," I said, "or part of it." She frowned. "Mom says money is boring," she said. "She says boring things are easy to move around." I almost smiled. Almost. "When was the last time your mom talked about the trust?" I asked. Sadie thought. "Last week," she said. "She was on the phone in the office. She said your name again." My fingers paused on the keyboard. "What did she say?" I asked. Sadie tilted her head. "She said you make things slow," Sadie said. "She said slow people do not win. She said you read too much." I let out a breath. "That is her favorite complaint about me," I said. Sadie did not smile. I clicked through the transaction history. At first glance, nothing looked wrong. Small distributions, monthly, categorized as household expenses, child support adjustments, administrative fees, all well under thresholds that would trigger extra review. But the pattern was there. Small withdrawals, frequent, consistent, enough to add up without drawing attention. I pointed at the screen. "See this?" I said. "And this?" Sadie leaned in, eyes narrowing like she was trying to see what I saw. "It looks the same," she said. "Exactly," I said. People who steal in big chunks want to be caught. People who steal in small ones think they are invisible. My phone buzzed on the table. Sadie jumped. I glanced at the screen, a text from Renee. "Made it through security. Flight board soon. Everything okay there?" Everything okay. I set the phone face down again. "I am not answering her," I said. "Not yet." Sadie nodded, but her foot swung nervously under the stool. I kept scrolling. Emails between Renee and Caleb were polite, almost dull. Questions about timing, requests for clarification, little nudges framed as concern. One email stood out, sent 2 days earlier. Temporary authority in case of emergency. I felt my pulse pick up. I clicked it open. Renee had written about contingency planning, about what would happen if one beneficiary was incapacitated, about the importance of continuity for a child. My jaw tightened. "That's me," I said quietly. "I'm the contingency." Sadie hugged her rabbit tighter. "She said that word," Sadie said. "Incapacitated." I closed the laptop slowly. "Did she explain what that meant to you?" I asked. Sadie shook her head. "She said it means you are not you," Sadie said. "She said sometimes grown-ups need help deciding things." The room felt smaller. "Tell me about the tea," I said. Sadie hesitated, then spoke faster like she was afraid the words might disappear if she slowed down. "She made it last night," Sadie said. "She measured things. She said not too much, not too little. She said it's natural, so it's safe." She laughed. "She said doctors use worse things all the time." My skin crawled. "Did she try it herself?" I asked. Sadie shook her head.
She said she doesn't need it. She said it's for people who think too hard. I looked back at the trust documents in my mind, at the email about temporary authority, at the jar on the counter. This was not about killing me, that much was clear. Dead people caused investigations. Dead people created delays. Foggy people signed things. I stood and walked to the sink, rinsing my glass, though it was already clean. The motion gave my hands something to do. Sadie watched me. "Is she going to make you sign?" she asked. "Yes," I said. "Sign what?" she asked. I turned back to her. "Papers that give her more control," I said. "Papers that make it harder for me to say no later. Papers that make her the only voice anyone listens to." Sadie's face crumbled. "And me?" she said. I knelt in front of her. "And you," I said. "Papers about where you live, who decides things for you." She swallowed. "She said if you're tired, she can help faster. She said judges like fast." Judges like fast. Renee had always known how to phrase things so they sounded reasonable, helpful even. My phone buzzed again. Another text. "Boarding now. Tell Sadie I love her." I picked it up this time. My fingers hovered over the screen. I could call her out. I could demand answers. I could blow everything open right now. But I had learned something over years of watching people unravel their own skeins. The moment you let them know you see the pattern, they change it. I typed back. "All good here," she settled. Sadie watched me hit send. "You lied," she said. "Not accusing, just observing." "Yes," I said, "for now." I closed the laptop and slid it into my bag. "We are not doing anything tonight," I said. "No confrontations, no surprises." Sadie nodded slowly. "What are we doing then?" she asked. I looked at the quiet house, at the jar of tea, at the office door at the end of the hall. "We are watching," I said. "We are listening, and we are writing things down." She considered that. "Like homework," Sadie said. I smiled faintly. "Like homework that matters," I said. Sadie climbed down from the stool and stood beside me. She was small, but there was something steady in the way she held herself now, like she had finally put down a weight she had been carrying alone. I pulled a notebook from my bag, the one I used for work ideas and reminders, and flipped to a clean page. "Date, time," I murmured, writing as I spoke. "Tea prepared. Child warning. Trust email reviewed." Sadie leaned closer, careful not to touch anything. "You always write everything," she said. "Yes," I said, "because people forget what they say. Paper does not." I glanced toward the hallway again, toward the office where the locked drawer waited, toward the future Renee thought she had already arranged. She believed this was about money. She was wrong. It was about control.
Chapter 4. I didn't confront her. I let her keep talking. The next morning, I woke before Sadie did, the kind of early that makes a house feel like it is holding its breath. I stood in the kitchen with the lights still off, watching the faint gray of dawn fill the windows, and I looked at the jar of tea like it might change if I stared long enough. I did not pour it out. I did not touch it with bare hands either. I found a box of disposable gloves under the sink, the kind Renee kept for cleaning. I slipped them on, twisted the lid closed tight, and slid the jar into a gallon freezer bag. Then I placed the bagged jar inside a lunch cooler, buried under an ice pack, like it was something that needed to stay exactly as it was. I wrote it down in my notebook. Date, morning, jar sealed and stored. Sadie came into the kitchen in her socks, hair sticking up at the crown, rabbit tucked under her arm. She looked at the counter first, like she expected the tea to be sitting there, waiting to trap someone. "It is gone," I said softly. She blinked. "Did you throw it away?" she asked. "No," I said. "I saved it." Her face tightened with confusion. "Why would you save it?" she asked. "Because people lie," I said, "and when they do, the truth needs something solid to stand on." Sadie stared at me for a long moment, then nodded once like she was filing the answer away. We kept the morning normal. cereal, a cartoon playing low on the living room TV. I did not want her to feel like the world had become nothing but fear, but I also did not let her out of my sight for more than a few seconds. When she went to brush her teeth, I stood at the end of the hall and watched the office door. It was closed, just like last night. I could feel the locked drawer inside it like a secret pressing against wood. My phone buzzed, and I almost dropped it. A call from Renee. I let it ring twice so I could take a breath. Then I answered with the calmest voice I could manage. "Hey," I said, "you landed okay?" Renee sounded bright, almost cheerful, the way she did when she wanted something to sound harmless. "Smooth flight," she said. "Bryce is grabbing the rental car. How is my girl?" I glanced toward the bathroom door, where I could hear the faucet running. "She is fine," I said. "Quiet morning." "Good," Renee said. "Keep her on her routine. You know how she is." I waited. With Renee, the first sentence was never the point. There was a small pause, and then she asked it, casual as a weather comment. "And you," she said, "how did you sleep?" My grip tightened on the phone. "Fine," I said. "You sound tired," Renee said. "Are you drinking enough water?" My pulse thudded. She was testing. She wanted to hear fog in my voice. "I am good," I said. "No worries." Renee made a soft laugh. "You always say that," she said. "Listen, Ava, I was thinking, you do so much. You never take time for yourself. Maybe this is a sign you should slow down." I felt the temptation rise, sharp and hot, to say what I knew. A sign. I could picture her saying it with that gentle smile, the one that made people trust her, the one that made teachers back off and friends defend her without question. I forced my voice into something flat. "I am not sure what you mean," I said. "It's nothing," Renee said quickly. "Just sister talk. I want you to be okay. I want you to feel supported." Supported. The word tasted wrong. Sadie padded down the hallway then, rabbit held tight, and stopped where she could see me. Her eyes went to my face, then to the phone. Renee kept going. "And I want Sadie to feel secure. She needs stability, predictable choices. You understand that, right?" My heart pounded. This was the moment, the line where she wanted me to agree to something that sounded reasonable. "Of course," I said. "Good," Renee said. "Because sometimes if a caregiver is overwhelmed, it can affect the child. I've been reading about it, a lot. There are professionals who can step in if needed." "Ava, do not react," I told myself. "Do not show her you hear the threat." "I will keep things calm," I said. Renee made a soft laugh. "You always say that," she said. "Listen, Ava, I was thinking, you do so much. You never take time for yourself. Maybe this is a sign you should slow down." I felt the temptation rise, sharp and hot, to say what I knew. A sign. I could picture her saying it with that gentle smile, the one that made people trust her, the one that made teachers back off and friends defend her without question. I forced my voice into something flat. "I am not sure what you mean," I said. "It's nothing," Renee said quickly. "Just sister talk. I want you to be okay. I want you to feel supported." Supported. The word tasted wrong. Sadie padded down the hallway then, rabbit held tight, and stopped where she could see me. Her eyes went to my face, then to the phone. Renee kept going. "And I want Sadie to feel secure. She needs stability, predictable choices. You understand that, right?" My heart pounded. This was the moment, the line where she wanted me to agree to something that sounded reasonable. "Of course," I said. "Good," Renee said. "Because sometimes if a caregiver is overwhelmed, it can affect the child. I've been reading about it, a lot. There are professionals who can step in if needed." "Ava, do not react," I told myself. "Do not show her you hear the threat." "I will keep things calm," I said. Renee made a soft laugh. "You always say that," she said. "Listen, Ava, I was thinking, you do so much. You never take time for yourself. Maybe this is a sign you should slow down." I felt the temptation rise, sharp and hot, to say what I knew. A sign.
I could picture her saying it with that gentle smile, the one that made people trust her, the one that made teachers back off and friends defend her without question. I forced my voice into something flat. I am not sure what you mean, I said. It's nothing, Renee said quickly. Just sister talk. I want you to be okay. I want you to feel supported. Supported. The word tasted wrong. Sadie patted down the hallway then, rabbit held tight, and stopped where she could see me. Her eyes went to my face, then to the phone. Renee kept going. And I want Sadie to feel secure. She needs stability, predictable choices. You understand that, right? My heart pounded. This was the moment, the line where she wanted me to agree to something that sounded reasonable. Of course, I said. Good, Renee said. Because sometimes, if a caregiver is overwhelmed, it can affect the child. I've been reading about it, a lot. There are professionals who can step in if needed. Ava, do not react, I told myself. Do not show her you hear the threat. I will keep things calm, I said. Renee made a soft laugh. You always say that, she said. Listen, Ava, I was thinking, you do so much. You never take time for yourself. Maybe this is a sign you should slow down. I felt the temptation rise, sharp and hot, to say what I knew. A sign. I could picture her saying it with that gentle smile, the one that made people trust her, the one that made teachers back off and friends defend her without question. I forced my voice into something flat. I am not sure what you mean, I said. It's nothing, Renee said quickly. Just sister talk. I want you to be okay. I want you to feel supported. Supported. The word tasted wrong. Sadie patted down the hallway then, rabbit held tight, and stopped where she could see me. Her eyes went to my face, then to the phone. Renee kept going. And I want Sadie to feel secure. She needs stability, predictable choices. You understand that, right? My heart pounded. This was the moment, the line where she wanted me to agree to something that sounded reasonable. Of course, I said. Good, Renee said. Because sometimes, if a caregiver is overwhelmed, it can affect the child. I've been reading about it, a lot. There are professionals who can step in if needed. Ava, do not react, I told myself. Do not show her you hear the threat. I will keep things calm, I said. Renee made a soft laugh. You always say that, she said. Listen, Ava, I was thinking, you do so much. You never take time for yourself. Maybe this is a sign you should slow down. I felt the temptation rise, sharp and hot, to say what I knew. A sign. I could picture her saying it with that gentle smile, the one that made people trust her, the one that made teachers back off and friends defend her without question. I forced my voice into something flat. I am not sure what you mean, I said. It's nothing, Renee said quickly. Just sister talk. I want you to be okay. I want you to feel supported. Supported. The word tasted wrong. Sadie patted down the hallway then, rabbit held tight, and stopped where she could see me. Her eyes went to my face, then to the phone. Renee kept going. And I want Sadie to feel secure. She needs stability, predictable choices. You understand that, right? My heart pounded. This was the moment, the line where she wanted me to agree to something that sounded reasonable. Of course, I said. Good, Renee said. Because sometimes, if a caregiver is overwhelmed, it can affect the child. I've been reading about it, a lot. There are professionals who can step in if needed. Ava, do not react, I told myself. Do not
show her you hear the threat. I will keep things calm, I said. Renee sighed, a gentle sound. You are such a good aunt, she said. I wish you would let people take care of you the way you take care of everyone else. My mouth went dry. I have to go, I said. Sadie is right here. Renee's tone sharpened just a fraction. Put her on the phone, she said. Let me hear her breathing. I miss her. Sadie's eyes widened. She shook her head before I even moved. She's in the middle of brushing her teeth, I said. Then when she is done, Renee said. Just a minute. It will help her, Ava. She needs to hear me. This was dangerous. If Renee heard her speak, everything would change. But if I refused too hard, Renee would know something was off. I smiled, even though Renee could not see it. "I will call you later," I said. "After breakfast." There was a beat of silence, just long enough to feel like pressure. "Fine," Renee said. "Later. Love you." The line went dead. Sadie let out a shaky breath. "She wanted me," she whispered. "I know," I said. "You did good not making a sound." Sadie hugged the rabbit tighter. "She always knows," she said. "Not everything," I said. "Not anymore." When Sadie returned to the living room, I walked to the kitchen and pulled out my phone again. I searched for Gwen Adler and hit call. Gwen answered on the second ring, voice thick with sleep. "Ava," she said, "please tell me you are not calling to ask about a rash." "I wish it was a rash," I said. That snapped her awake. "What is it?" she said. I kept my voice low and steady, choosing my words like they mattered, because they did. "I have a jar of herbal tea my sister left for my niece. My niece told me not to drink it. She said her mom put something in it to make me foggy. I need you to tell me what kind of natural stuff could do that without being obviously illegal." There was a pause, and then Gwen's voice dropped. "Are you safe?" she asked. "I am fine," I said. "I did not drink it, but I need facts." "Do not bring it to a hospital," Gwen said immediately. "If you want it tested, we do it the smart way. I can look at the ingredient profile if you tell me what it smells like, what it looks like, what her usual routine is. And Ava, if you think someone is trying to sedate you, you call the police." "I am not calling anyone yet," I said. "Why not?" Gwen asked, sharper now. "Because I need to know what I have, and I need to protect my niece." Gwen exhaled slowly. "Okay," she said. "Text me photos of the jar and anything it came in, labels, receipts, anything. And keep the jar cold. Also, stop handling it with bare hands." "I bagged it," I said. "Gloves." "Good," Gwen said. "You sound like you are in work mode." "I am," I said. Before I hung up, Gwen added, softer, "Ava, people do not do this kind of thing unless they think they can get away with it. Do not underestimate your sister." "I'm done underestimating her," I said. After I sent Gwen the photos, I opened my laptop again and drafted a simple list. Nothing dramatic, just a timeline of what I knew. Renee's call, the wording she used, the way she tried to steer me into agreeing that I was overwhelmed, the way she pushed to speak to Sadie. In my world, language was behavior. Behavior left trails. By midday, I had another call to make. Mark Ellison was not my lawyer. He was a family law attorney Gwen had recommended years ago when a coworker was fighting for visitation. I'd kept his number, the way I kept everything that might matter someday. I called and asked for a consultation. The receptionist offered me a slot that afternoon, and I took it. I told Mark we were going for a drive. Sadie did not ask questions, just put on her shoes and followed me to the car, like she had learned that leaving quickly was sometimes safer. Mark's office was in a modest brick building near downtown, the kind of place that didn't look like television drama. No marble, no grand lobby, just a waiting room with magazines and a water cooler. Mark met me at the door to his office with a handshake and kind eyes. "You are Ava Merther," he said. "Yes," I said. "And this is your niece," he said, glancing at Sadie. Sadie stared at the carpet and hugged her rabbit. Mark did not push. He gestured toward the chairs. "Tell me what's going on," he said. I kept my words careful. I did not accuse my sister of poisoning me. I told him I had concerns about sedation, about documents, about my sister's interest in temporary authority. I told him my niece had selective mutism and had just spoken for the first time in years, and that the timing didn't feel like a miracle. It felt like a warning. Mark listened without interrupting. When I finished, he leaned back. "First," he said, "if you believe a child is being manipulated or threatened, that matters. Second, if you think someone is trying to make you medically impaired to get you to sign documents, that matters. Third, if your sister is attempting to alter legal arrangements under the idea of emergency, that matters." I nodded, holding myself still. "What do?" I asked.
You document everything, he said. Dates, calls, messages. You do not confront her unless you have to. You keep the child safe. And you make sure your legal steps are grounded, not emotional. I almost laughed at that. Emotional was not my default. Mark continued. Do you have any legal rights to the child right now? He asked. No, I said. I'm her aunt. I'm just babysitting. Then your power is temporary, he said, but your ability to observe and report is real. If your niece has been threatened, if she has been coerced into silence, that's not just family drama, that's harmful. If you have evidence, even indirect, you can request an emergency evaluation. You can involve the school counselor. You can involve Child Protective Services if needed. Sadie's head lifted slightly at the words Child Protective Services, her eyes wide. Mark saw it and softened his voice. That doesn't mean anyone is coming to take her away, he said gently. Sadie looked at me, fear flickering. I reached for her hand. I'm not letting anyone take you away, I said quietly. Mark looked at me for a long moment. And the trust, he said. I swallowed. It requires 2 signatures for major changes, I said, but my sister is asking about temporary authority in case of emergency. Mark nodded. Emergency authority can be abused, he said. It depends on how the trust is structured and who the administrator is. If your sister is already laying groundwork, she thinks he has a path. I felt the cold focus settle in again. She does, I said, until she doesn't. Mark held my gaze. Be careful, he said. People who crave control do not let go quietly. When we walked back to the car, the air felt brighter, but my chest still felt tight. Sadie climbed into the back seat and pressed her forehead to the window. Are we in trouble? She asked softly. No, I said. We're getting ahead of it. Sadie watched the passing streets, the calm, normal world outside the car. She thinks she's winning, she whispered. I glanced at her in the mirror. Let her think that, I said. Because I could feel it now, the way a pattern tightens right before it snaps. Renee believed she had set everything up. She believed I was alone in that house, tired, compliant, easy to steer. By the time we pulled back into her driveway, I knew the next few days would not be about whether my sister was lying. They would be about how much she was willing to do to keep control, and how long she would keep talking before she said the one thing that would end it.
Chapter 5. Karma didn't yell. It just closed in. I had been telling this story with names that were easier to say out loud than the real ones, because even now I still catch myself bracing for my sister's voice to cut through the air. My name is Claire Jensen. My sister is Mallory Kane. My niece's name is Lily. The house was still the same, the patterns were still the same, only the labels changed. By Sunday night, I stopped thinking in hours and started thinking in windows. The next text, the next call, the next moment Mallory would try to nudge me into agreeing to something that sounded responsible and loving. It came sooner than I expected. She called after dinner, her voice warm like she was checking in from a hotel lobby with soft lighting and complimentary cookies. Claire, she said, how are my girls? Lily sat on the floor beside the couch, rabbit in her lap, coloring with slow, careful strokes. She glanced up when she heard her mother's voice and went rigid in a way that made my skin tighten. We are fine, I said. She is doing great. Mallory made a pleased sound. Good, I knew you would be steady. That is why I asked you. I kept my tone light. How is the drip? I asked. Busy, she said. You know how it is. A lot of meetings, a lot of paperwork. Paperwork. The word landed like a stone. She continued, casual. Hey, I need to ask you something. Not a big deal, just a what if. My fingers dug into the arm of the couch. Okay, I said. So you know the family trust, she said. Just generally. It is nothing for you to worry about, but Caleb mentioned something. About a form that helps in emergencies. If one of us gets sick or overwhelmed, it can make things smoother for Lily. It protects her. The phrasing was perfect. Emergency, smooth, protects her. I heard Mark Ellison's voice in my head. People who crave control do not let go quietly. I kept my breathing even. What form? I asked. A temporary authorization, Mallory said. It's just a precaution. It would let me handle things if you were not feeling well. You have been working so hard, Claire. You never rest. Sometimes your body forces you to. My throat tightened. I am fine, I said. Of course you are, she said. You always are. But if you were tired, you might not realize it. You might not realize you need help. That is why I am offering. Lily made a small sound, not words, just a breath that caught. She hugged the rabbit to her chest and stared at the carpet like it could hide her. I stood up and walked into the kitchen so my voice would not shake. I will think about it, I said. Mallory paused, then softened. Do not be stubborn, she said. I am trying to make life easier for you, for Lily. I pictured the jar in my cooler, sealed and cold. I pictured my notebook with times and dates, the words she used, the way she always circled back to the same goal. I am going to bed soon, I said. I will call you tomorrow. There was another pause, and I could hear her calculating. Put Lily on, she said, just for a minute. I swallowed. She's in the bath, I lied. Mallory laughed lightly. You always were a terrible liar, she said. Tell her I love her. I ended the call before my hands betrayed me. The next day, everything accelerated, not with sirens or shouting, but with emails and calendar invites and the quiet machinery of systems doing what they were built to do when someone tugged the wrong thread. It started with Caleb Morris, the trust administrator, calling me directly. That alone was unusual. Caleb did not call. Caleb sent polite emails and waited for signatures. His voice sounded careful, like he was stepping onto ice. Claire, he said, do you have a moment? Yes, I said. I just wanted to confirm something, he said. Mallory reached out about emergency authority. She asked about a procedure to act unilaterally in case of incapacity. That is not a standard change. It requires documentation. My jaw tightened. What kind of documentation? I asked. A physician letter, for one thing, he said, and a review by our internal counsel. The trust was set up to prevent exactly this kind of unilateral shift without cause. I let out a slow breath. Thank you for telling me, I said. Caleb hesitated. I am required to inform both parties when an inquiry like that comes in. I am also required to note it. Note it. Record it. That was what Mallory hated. Records. After I hung up, I drove Lily to her school the way I had that morning, early enough that the parking lot still had dew on the pavement. I asked to speak with the counselor. The woman I met this time was not the same counselor Lily remembered, but she had the same tired kindness in her eyes. She introduced herself as Ms. Hart. I told her in careful adult language that my niece had disclosed fear of her mother, that she had been pressured into silence, that there were concerns about coercion. I did not claim criminal acts. I did not dramatize. I stated facts. Ms. Hart listened, then asked a question that made my stomach twist. Has Lily ever spoken here? She asked. I looked at Lily, who stood beside me gripping her rabbit, eyes fixed on the carpet like it could hide her. I stood up and walked into the kitchen so my voice would not shake. Not until this weekend, I said. Ms. Hart nodded slowly. We have notes, she said. We have years of notes. Selective mutism is real, but patterns matter, and if a child is afraid, that matters more. She asked if Lily would sit with her for a few minutes. Lily looked at me panicked. I crouched down. I'll be right outside, I said. You are safe. Lily swallowed, then nodded, the smallest, bravest motion. While she went with Miss Hart, I sat in the hallway and stared at the beige walls and framed posters about kindness. I felt sick. I felt furious. I felt guilty for not noticing sooner. All three feelings braided together until I couldn't tell which one was strongest. When Lily came out, her face was blotchy but calmer. Ms. Hart stepped into the hallway with me. She spoke quietly. She spoke in my office, she said. My heart lurched. Ms. Hart kept her voice professional. I am documenting this as a significant change. We will request a review of her records.
We will also contact the appropriate agency for guidance. That does not mean removal, it means we look closer." I nodded, throat tight. "Thank you," I said. On the drive home, Lily stared out the window. Her fingers stroked the rabbit's ear the same way she had last night when she told me she had been able to talk all along. At home, I found 2 more messages from Mallory, one sweet, one sharper. "Call me, this is urgent. Claire, do not make this hard, you are overreacting." Overreacting, the word women get handed when they notice something real. That afternoon, Mark Ellising called me back. I gave him the update. Caleb had flagged the inquiry, the school counselor had documented a disclosure. Mark's voice stayed calm. "That is good," he said. "It creates a trail. Now your sister can't pretend this came out of nowhere." "What happens next?" I asked. "Next," he said, "you keep doing what you are doing. Do not confront, do not accuse, let the systems move, and keep the child close." Mallory returned on Tuesday. Not in a police car, not in handcuffs. She walked through her front door with the same polished confidence she always wore, suitcase rolling behind her, lips already forming a smile. Then she saw me standing in the kitchen, notebook on the counter, and she hesitated. Lily was behind me, half hidden, rabbit clutched tight, but her eyes were on her mother and they did not look away. Mallory's face faltered. "What is this?" she asked. I kept my voice even. "We need to talk," I said. Mallory's gaze flicked to Lily. "Honey, come here," she said gently. Lily did not move. Mallory's eyes narrowed just a fraction. "Claire, what did you do?" I did not raise my voice. I did not list accusations. I did not try to win an argument. I handed her the simplest truth. "I kept records," I said. "You asked about emergency authority. Caleb logged it, the school documented a disclosure, Mark is aware, and Lily spoke." Mallory's face drained of color in a way I had never seen. She swallowed. "She spoke," she repeated, as if the word itself was impossible. Lily stepped forward, only one step, but it was enough to change the air in the room. Her voice came out small but steady. "I can talk," she said. "I just wasn't allowed to." Mallory's mouth opened, then closed. Her eyes darted to me, sharp with panic, then smoothed again as she tried to rebuild control from scraps. "You are confused," she said, looking at Lily. "You have been through changes. Aunt Claire is stressed. This is not the time." Lily's hand tightened on the rabbit. She did not retreat. "Ms. Hart wants to help me," Lily said. That was the moment. Not loud, not cinematic, just a child saying a name out loud that belonged to someone outside Mallory's control. Mallory's gaze snapped back to me, and in her eyes I saw it, the realization that she was no longer the storyteller in the room. 2 weeks later, she lost temporary authority to make changes to the trust while the inquiry was reviewed. Not forever, not dramatic, just a barrier put in place, a pause button she couldn't override. The company she worked for began an internal audit after a separate complaint, something she couldn't charm away. And Lily started real therapy with a specialist selected by the school and approved through proper channels, not someone her mother could hand-pick. Karma did not arrive with thunder. It arrived with paperwork, oversight, and professionals who wrote everything down.
One evening, after Lily had been asleep for an hour, I walked past her bedroom door and saw the rabbit on her pillow, carefully tucked under the blanket, like it was finally allowed to rest. I stood there longer than I meant to, because for the first time, the silence in the house did not feel like fear. It felt like peace. If you have ever felt that cold moment when you realize the people closest to you might not be safe, I want to know what you would have done in my place and what you think Lily should do next.